All right, so look, if you really want to understand this world, the systems that run it, the mindset behind it, then we have to go all the way back to the beginning, because none of this just happened out of thin air. Patriarchy, colonialism, capitalism, the system of white supremacy, they're all branches of the same root, and that root is fear. You see, you have to picture what life was like for early Europeans. It wasn't easy. It wasn't warm. It wasn't abundant. It was cold, dark, and unforgiving. The land was rough. The food was hard to find. Survival was never guaranteed. People were just doing whatever they could to survive another winter. Now, when you live like this, generation after generation, it changes the way that you think. It creates a mentality of scarcity. You start to think that control is safety and that compassion is dangerous. You stop trusting nature because it seems like she's not on your side. You stop trusting softness because it can get you killed. And that is how masculine energy took over in Europe. When life itself feels like war, then you start living like a soldier. The people who could fight, the people who could command, the people who could take, those were the ones who survived. When that way of thinking becomes a culture, then you have a patriarchy, a world that worships control and sees everything else as weakness. Now, when these same people left that environment and went out into the world, they carried that same mindset with them. They didn't leave that fear behind. They brought it everywhere that they went. That same instinct that fought the cold started fighting everything else. And that's how colonialism was born. Patriarchy turned outward. They looked at the rest of the world, saw people living in abundance and harmony, and they didn't understand it. They feared it. And what they feared, they tried to control. And so that same mentality that once conquered nature started conquering people. That same impulse that told them to dominate the land now told them to dominate the whole earth itself. And that's how this global system of domination began. It wasn't about divine destiny. It was about trauma. It was about control. And it's been running the world ever since. So capitalism came next. And that's just patriarchy with a new outfit. It's the same mindset, the same drive for control and dominance. The hierarchy of man over woman became rich over poor. The need to conquer the world turned into the need to own it. The earth was no longer sacred. She was just a resource. Labor became a commodity. People became tools. And the ones at the top, the ones who looked like the original patriarchs, they got to write the rules. So then white supremacy, the system of white supremacy, tied this all together. It gave this system a face. It said that the white man is the image of power, reason, and divinity. His logic became law. His body became the standard. His version of truth became universal. And anyone who didn't fit that image was made to serve it. So now you got patriarchy as the blueprint. You got colonialism as the expansion, capitalism as the engine, and white supremacy as the justification. It's one machine, one mindset, and the entire thing was built on the fear of losing control. But let's make something clear here. None of this was ever voluntary. We didn't agree to this. It was forced. Enforced with blood, enforced with chains, enforced with generations of violence and manipulation. The black world, the indigenous world, the global melanated world, we were not invited to this system. We were dragged into it. Slavery wasn't just about labor. It was about breaking balance. It's about taking people who came from harmony with nature and forcing them to live within someone else's fear. Families were torn apart. Languages were erased. Spiritual systems that honored life and rhythm were replaced with religion. And those religions preached obedience and submission. And when physical slavery ended, they just upgraded the system. The plantation became the corporation. The overseer became the police. The auction block became the job market. The same pyramid stayed standing, just wearing different clothes. And over time, we were taught to imitate the very thing that oppressed us. We started measuring success by how close we could perform in their system. We started calling the imitation of oppression achievement. The black man was told to prove his worth by becoming a real man, which means cold, dominant, emotionally numb. The black woman was told her value was in how much she could carry, how much she could endure, and how quiet she could stay while doing it. And that is patriarchy doing its job, keeping us divided and disconnected from our true power. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing broke this all down. She said that the white male archetype operates from a deep level of insecurity, a fear of annihilation, a fear of the feminine, a fear of the black gene, a fear of anything that reminds him that he's not in control. That fear became an obsession with power, with weapons, with status. It's the same cold trauma replaying itself through systems of domination. And Marimba Annie, she called it Yorugu, the incomplete being, cut off from its other half, doomed to search for wholeness through control. That's the European psyche. That's patriarchy. That's not power. It's desperation. A spirit that doesn't know balance, trying to find its own wholeness through a spirit that doesn't know balance by trying to fill its own emptiness by trying to own everything around it. That's why colonialism, capitalism, and the system of white supremacy all operate the same way, expanding, exploiting, consuming, but most importantly, never satisfied. It's the same trauma looping through time. That same mindset that once fought to survive in the cold is now fighting to survive its own system, its own collapse. And I need people to understand this isn't just history. This is now. It's in everything we do. It's how we define success. It's how we treat each other. It's how we see the world. We were all forced to live in the logic of a people who were shaped by scarcity and fear. And until we face this truth, we will keep repeating it. And that's why I keep talking about it. That's why I keep trying to spread this truth. That's why I be getting frustrated sometimes. Because I'm not just talking about the past. I'm talking about the present. I'm talking about how this system that we live in right now actually drains us today, still divides us today. We still live in a world that tells us that we have to act like our oppressors to feel like we matter. But that's ending now because the illusion is breaking. The earth is done with it. The people are done with it. Hell, even consciousness itself is done with it. The energy is shifting, and this system cannot survive this shift. The next era of humanity will not belong to patriarchy, colonialism, capitalism, the system of white supremacy. It will belong to balance, to remembering what it means to be a human again, to build instead of conquer, to lead through cooperation instead of control. This is what awakening really means. It's not all love and light. It's seeing the truth for what it really is. That this whole system was born from fear, and fear can't hold power forever. What started in the cold will end in warmth. What started in trauma will end in truth. The empire built by the white male archetype has ruled for thousands of years. But even it has to answer to balance, because you can't fight nature forever. You can't own life. You can't suppress truth. Balance always returns.